and with each exhalation of breath, cry the dead souls out into the light of the still living. The house feels so alone without you. I call your name through the darkness, lost as in scenes of a blinded reverie. I reach to find your hand within my hand, yet it returns empty, caressed only by the earth. Without you, I carry death like stones in my coat pocket. I take one out to speak to it in a somber voice. I plead with it unendingly, and I might just see you again, just this once. Your voice, like static in my ears, reminds me of the waves. Against you, I will fling myself, unvanquished and unending. Oh, death. Even the darkest night must end, and the sun will rise. Lisbeth? Yes, Lady Elsie, if it is the young woman with whom we spoke previously, please, by all means, greet her and show her through to the sitting room. Oh, good evening. It's Agnes, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm so pleased you could make it. We have been in such an impasse of late. We weren't at all certain of who else to turn to.
You said on the phone that this has been going on for several months.
Yes, that is correct. It started shortly after the passing of my late husband. At first I thought it simple, common things, everyday occurrences. The gardeners traipsing in and out of the house with their muddy work boots, leaving footprints on the stairs. Or the servants returning to their rooms in the early hours, slamming the doors behind them. After a thorough investigation, this turned out to be incorrect.
Obviously, we've spoken with several contractors who have assessed the state of the building and found no issue with the foundation or structural well-being of the property itself.
Well, this left few rational possibilities. Agnes, you must help us.
First, I'll need something of your husband's. A token or a memento. Something that was personal to him.
Of course. Agnes, could you fetch Lord Alfred's campaign medals?
Was that your husband?
Yes. That was my Alfred. Handsome, wasn't he?
How did he die?
It was a heart attack. Lady Elsie. I had Lisbeth set up this table. I do hope it's suitable. Agnes, I thought you can sit here, I will sit to your left, and Lisbeth can sit on the right.
I was wondering if I could perhaps borrow your wedding ring?
My ring? Whatever for?
Well, if your husband is here, then having something that was so personal to the both of you, such as the profound unity of yourselves, might bring him back to our location.
But I haven't taken this ring off for over 50 years.
I understand that. Truly I do. It's just the things that you described on the phone. The dripping taps, the creaking floorboards, the doors being opened and closed. There's nothing there that automatically suggests the presence of your husband. We must be careful that our actions tonight are not engaging an unwanted spirit. Think of the ring as a key, and this room is like a doorway. It leads from our world into theirs. Without a key, the door is either open, unlocked, or forever closed. Any spirit can pass through, or no spirit passes at all. With your ring, we ensure that only a spirit directly connected to the object itself may pass through the threshold. All the others are kept at bay. Anais Nin once wrote, "Love never dies a natural death. It dies because we don't know how to replenish its source. It dies of blindness, bitterness and betrayal. It dies of illness and old wounds. It dies abandoned, or it withers like an obedient dog waiting for its master's call to coerce it back to life." Alfred Lancaster. Hear my voice through the darkness. Let it guide you back to the light of the living. Speak and make your presence felt. I hear the sound of running water. A gentle lapping sound. The calm now broken by a dull tip-tapping.
What was that?
Agnes, please continue.
Alfred Lancaster. Hear my voice through the darkness. Let it guide you back to the light of the living. Speak and make your presence felt.
I don't like this! Lady Elsie, please, make it stop!
Lisbeth, I must know. Is it him? Is it my Alfred? Oh God, please, if you are there, speak. Oh, speak to us. Give us a sign. Anything.
She won't let me speak.
Who won't let you speak?
Eleanor.
Eleanor.
What did you say?
He said Eleanor.
Get out. Get out of my house.
Lady Elsie.
Who put you up to this? Who put you up to this? Bloody charlatan. I suppose this is your sick idea of a joke.
It was stupid to bring
It was stupid to bring you here. The people in the village are right about you. You're an evil, hateful young woman. Now, get out of my house. You are not welcome here.
Lady Elsie, please.
Now pose like Athelia, still lost in the blanketed blue frost of an endless dusk. Was it you who tied the red ribbon round my wrist and buried me neath in the brine of a sinner's grave, and while I still drew breath?
You were my sister, Elsie. I saw you standing at the edge of the lake. That mottled smear of your yellow summer dress through the rippled waters. Like the sun, writhing in ecstasy against the great fornicating movements of the tide, bedazzled and dizzied me. I called out to you from the depths, my drowning voice a whimper of desperation to the life that I so ceaselessly cherished. Help me, Elsie. Help me. The thought that my own sister could watch me drown was far worse than 1,000,000 deaths. But as ever, you surpassed yourself in your cruelty.
What is she talking about?
I was still half conscious when you dragged me from the lake. In my head, 1,000 thoughts circled. I begged and pleaded for your mercy, tried to reason with you. Eventually, I became hysterical with fear. But these thoughts never left my cold, blue lips. As if caught by the grip of an unrelenting delirium, I saw you drag me through the house by my ankles, like a mongrel dog. And then, without a hint of kindness or compassion, you placed me in a bath of tepid water, and with our father's own straight razor, you opened my veins.
Is it a sin? Is it a crime? Loving you, dear, like I do. If it is a crime, then I'm guilty. Guilty of loving you.
No one could possibly have known all that. No one.
I heard you sing those words as the last expression of life drained from my body. They pierced my heart like 1,000 shards of broken glass, like a mirror reflecting only myself. What hurt the most, Elsie, is that everyone, mother and father, everyone in the family, all of our friends, were convinced that I did it because he didn't love me. When all along it was you, Elsie. You did it because he didn't love you. You stole me away from him, and you exploited his grief and his sorrow that you created to make him yearn for you.
No, that's not true. He did love me. He still loves me.
No, he is with me here.
Elsie.
Alfred?
Elsie. How could you have fallen so low? Such horror. Such atrocity. That you could have confused an expression of such overwhelming repugnance. Such scheming. There's something so tender and so delicate as an act of love. It chills me to the very centre of my being. How do you live with yourself, Elsie? How do you wake each day with the knowledge of who you are and what you've done? To have laid beside a man whose heart you have broken, and in the place of a woman's whose death you presided over, like some black-winged raven upon a bust of Pallas, screeching forever in the face of her dying breath, eternally nevermore. Have you no shame, Elsie, no remorse? Not even with the knowledge that the ring you've worn so brazenly upon your finger this last half a century was first bought for a sister, whose life you so callously snuffed out. And nothing would have changed me, Elsie. A poor and hideous substitute for a true and meaningful love. We're the death of you.
No, it can't be. It can't be.
Poor Elsie. From tomorrow, you will see only darkness. How then will you cry out when finally, at the moment of death, You take responsibility for how and from whom you've stolen these years.
O light of the sun, I still hear the owls burning.
The ambulance will be here shortly. Are you okay?
Better now, thank you. What about you? You okay?
No, I'm not okay. I'm tired and I'm frightened, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Agnes, I can't pretend to understand what transpired in that room. Quite frankly, I don't wish to. Some things are beyond such comprehension. But there is one thing that still intrigues me. What did you mean when you said, I still hear the owls burning?
When I was 8 years old, my parents moved us to a farmhouse on the edge of the village. That's where I first made contact, where I learned to listen to the voices. When I was younger, I'd always be afraid of them. I'd stick fingers in my ears and sing at the top of my voice to drown them out. Later, I'd listen to music or the radio. The voices were often old and cruel. They'd speak of things I didn't understand. Their emotions, pain, loss and bitterness were beyond the sympathies of my years. Abigail was different. She was a child, like me, only lost, frozen in time, unable to move on.
You helped her?
Yes. When Abigail was 12, 2 men came from the nearby village. They took her to the barn at the edge of the property and did unspeakable things.
Yes, I remember hearing about that when I was little. My mum used to speak of it as a cautionary tale to keep us safe from strangers. It was a huge outrage at the time.
Abigail told me that she couldn't rest until that barn had been completely destroyed and that the last reminder of her suffering had been wiped off the face of the earth. So one night, when my parents were asleep, I snuck out of bed. I crept downstairs. I stole a can of petrol from the garage and a box of matches from the kitchen and made my way down the path at the back of the house. In the half-light of the moon, the barn, with its rotten wood facade, broken beams and long shadows, looked to me like a skeleton of a vast, terrifying whale, its yawning mouth of a door still open like a gaping wound, its eyes boarded over as if blinded in retribution for the violence it had once seen. I felt then, for the first time, the true evil that those old souls had so often confessed to. In haste, I poured petrol over the walls and across the floor of the barn. It was difficult. The can was heavy and I was only small. The smell of accelerant was so strong. It stung my eyes so bad I could barely see. Without realizing, I staggered into the corner of the barn, not towards the door, but away from it. I was so eager to get out, to get back to my room, my bed, the open arms of my parents, that I struck the match and threw it into the opposite corner of the barn. The fire started so quickly. In a matter of seconds, the whole thing was ablaze. I panicked. I tried to call out for my mum and dad, but the smoke was so thick it choked me with every intake of breath. As I fell to my knees, I heard a fluttering, a panic, frantic flapping as if all the angels in heaven were beating their wings together in unison. And then I realised what it was.
The owls.
I couldn't have known that they were nesting there. I stayed curled up on the floor, the flames burning my skin, the smoke crippling my lungs, my voice too weak to cry. And then I saw, nestled away, a doting family of owls. The larger owl, which I took to be the father, tried desperately hard to escape. He repeatedly flung himself against the roof of the barn until he fell unconscious into the fire below. The other large but slightly smaller owl, which I took to be the mother, stayed with her frightened infants. They screamed and shrieked, the cries intensifying as the flames got higher. That sound of ungodly shrieking. Those cries of medieval darkness still